Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm Bruce McCurdy of the Cult of Hockey, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Hello, Kurt.
Hello, doing my best Rusty Staub in the place of
Mhm.
David Staples today.
Yeah, I think Dave and Lily are skiing today, so they taken a bit of a deserved break. I think Dave has done about 78 of the podcasts or something like that this year. So, yeah, both way up there. Anyway, thanks for chipping in. I hope you got to enjoy the game out there on Pender Island as much as I enjoyed it here in St. Albert.
I did. It's a real switch from David and his family skiing. I was cutting the grass before the game.
Oh,
But
close.
yeah, close. But did enjoy the game and for a game against not much of a competitor really in the San Jose Sharks. I thought we saw a lot of good things and some special things as well.
Yeah, I thought the game, it was quite a competitive first period. And what I felt, even from through the TV, was that sort of special feeling. And you'll know what I'm talking about, Kurt. When, as a home fan of a failed season, the very last home game is nonetheless something of a marker. You go to that last game, you sort of try and enjoy the game, you get into it, and the team tries to get into it, and for a period or so. I thought the Sharks did a pretty good job competing, and then the Oilers gradually broke them down. And by the end, we could see that the two teams were very, very far apart in quality. Not to mention, San Jose was 3 or 4 or 5 players into their depth list, as opposed to Edmonton firing on almost all cylinders right now. Only Ryan McLeod missing of the roster that most people would, well, I guess, and Cody Ceci today, pardon me, but Ryan McLeod missing for this last while from the team that we would like to see start the playoffs. He would be on that team. But they they rolled up out a more than good enough team to handle the Sharks, even without Cody Ceci. And they had to mess around a little bit with their decor, but nothing anybody couldn't handle, well, with one small exception, but we'll talk about that down the road a bit, because we're going to start with good things, and we're going to take 2 of them each. So I'm going to say, why don't you go ahead first, Kurt, and tell me what you liked as your first good thing today.
Okay, the first good thing that I'll pick of my couple today will be Matthias Ekholm. Matthias Ekholm, he of the +6 rating today. He is +25 since he has joined the Edmonton Oilers, and over an 82-game schedule, that would prorate out to, I think it's 108
Wow.
over an 82-game season. It's amazing when you think back, Bruce, about all the conversations we had and all the articles we wrote about who would be the right defenseman for the Oilers to pick up. And I think at best, certainly in the early going, Matthias Ekholm was perhaps a fond thought. But I think a lot of other names dominated for a long time, and he kind of came up the middle, if you will, right at the end. But my Lord, what a fit he has been. Arguably, he has been our best defenseman since his arrival. But I think the real win is the guys around him have gotten noticeably better with his presence. And it's not just the obvious one, Evan Bouchard, who is +4 today. And Bouchard, did I say he has, I think that's 17 points since Ekholm arrived, something like that.
That's what they were saying, yeah.
Yeah, like he's really on a roll. And as you know, I wrote last week in my 9 Things article about Darnell Nurse and how, he went from some nights playing 23, 24, 25 minutes a night. So he's only played over 24 minutes 3 or 4 times since Ekholm's arrival.
19 games ago, yeah.
Yeah, right. And I think it's really noticeable. I think that Darnell is such a physical specimen and such an elite skater. He's capable of playing 24, 25 minutes a night. The question is, should he? And when you see the quality of a game that Darnell Nurse turns in, when he only has to play 20 minutes like he did tonight, it's like, wow, he really does go up a notch. But And all those other players deserve credit for stepping up, because when the opportunity comes to you, you still have to be good. But the one common thread runs through all these guys in my eyes, and that's the presence of Mattias Ekholm. Not just on defense either. Like, look at the pass,
Oh,
the spin around backhand pass he made on the Zach Hyman goal.
yeah.
And that was only one of a few, high-end offensive plays that he made on the day. I had no clue he was this capable of a two-way defenseman.
Right.
And what a joy, that's the word I'll use. What a joy it is to watch him play on the Oilers' blue line, game in and game out. It's just fabulous.
Yeah. Well, he's. I always kind of saw him as sort of an offensive wild card with Nashville, that he was capable of doing stuff from time to time. But let's face it, in Nashville, when he did something, he'd pass it to Ryan Johansson or Cody Glass or maybe Philip Forsberg, but he wouldn't pass it to Connor McDavid like he did on that play early in the first period where McDavid passed it to Ekholm in the neutral zone. Ekholm took it in, took it over near the boards and sort of delayed while McDavid caught up, and then he just slipped this little 10-foot pass into McDavid's general area, and all of a sudden it's McDavid on the goalie one-on-one. And, just a very smart, disciplined play there by him to hold the puck for the right amount of time. And he did the same on the goal. Held the puck long enough for the pass receiver to get in a good spot, and then he hit him. And then the pass receiver had an excellent chance on goal. He also had one himself where he burst in and took McDavid's pass and drilled a hard wrist shot. This was, I think, maybe the first scoring chance of the whole game.
Yeah, that was short side. He
was just on it.
Yeah.
Just on. Well, Kurt, you talked about his plus 25 with the Oilers. Well, here's the funny thing: Oilers on the season. If you click on the plus minus, and all these guys with 80 games played, number one on the team for the year, Mattias Ekholm plus 25, followed by Darnell Nurse plus 23 in 80 games, Connor McDavid plus 22 in 80 games, Vincent Desharnais plus 15 in 34 games, which is really impressive.
Yep.
And then, on down the line, they got a whole bunch more guys that don't plus 13, 12, 11, 9, and so on. But Ekholm has just zoomed right past everybody in a month. It's incredible.
And he was even, I think, or plus one
even in Nashville.
When he left Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's in a better place now. Let's put it that way. And did he ever land in a good spot where he's the perfect fit?
Oh,
and as you say, it's not offense and it's not just defense, but defense is part of it. And he's very good at closing down dangerous-looking situations and very smart with the puck along the boards under pressure and stuff. And his veteranness shines through. And here we are. What can I say? 4 years under Ken Holland, 4 years. The Oilers' first trade has been for a veteran defenseman, and this year it's a home run.
Absolutely.
This year it's Chris Chelios that he got in Detroit as his sort of signature trade. Well, he did that all the time in Detroit too. Traded for a veteran defenseman practically every year.
Yep.
And whether it was Yuri Slager or
Larry Murphy.
Or some kind of depth guy, or it was the Chelios was the showpiece trade, or the Brad Stewart trade is another one. I mean, it's what he focuses on. And this year, grand slam home run, I'll even say at this point. I mean, obviously the playoffs will tell us more, but the man he got is playing inspired hockey, and he's inspiring the players around him.
To this point, Bruce, do you think that is Ken Holland's finest trade as Oilers general manager?
Oh, as the Oilers GM? Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the jury is out for a while on the assets they gave up. If Reed Schaefer turns out to be a Hall of Famer, maybe we'll think twice about it. But at this moment, in terms of he's got to go for it now during the McDavid-Draisaitl window, well, he went for it, and and he made two good trades. I'm really liking Nick Bjugstad as well, especially at $450K.
Oh. Yeah, talk about bang for your buck, hey? And when
Yeah.
Ryan McLeod gets back, what a nice problem to have. Who do you
Mhm.
put at three? I mean, you could go McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and one of those guys. Like there's an abundance of depth at center, which is what good organizations
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Well, they're getting by right now, and they're doing the 11-7 sometimes, and they're doing 12-6. But I think when McLeod gets back, they'll go with 12-6.
Think
So
so
I
too.
think he's an upgrade on either Broberg or Shore, who've kind of been shuttling in and out for each other. And I think if everybody's available, you'll find McLeod in, and you'll find Shore and Broberg on the sort of first replacement
Yeah,
team. So,
agreed.
so let's turn on to my good thing. And I would say 150. Holy moly. Now, this is my number. It's my good thing, my first good thing. And that's Connor McDavid achieving today and then passing through the 150 point plateau to 151, becoming the sixth player in NHL history to ever achieve the feat. And he's already passed, today, passed Bernie Nichols, who had 150 bang on the nose in his one surreal season after Gretzky got traded to Los Angeles. And he's one behind Phil Esposito for fourth, and he's four behind Steve Eisenman for third, and then he's 48 behind Mario Lemieux for second and 64 behind Wayne Gretzky for first. So I don't think he'll be overtaking those two gentlemen, but everybody else is fair game. And here's this one's just for Oilers fans and just for fun. But of the uh, of these six different guys that have the 150 point seasons, Wayne Gretzky has nine, Mario Lemieux four, and all the other guys one each. Well,
Hmm.
in other words, in the history of the NHL, it's been done 17 times, and Wayne Gretzky did it nine times, and every other player in the history of the league combined have done it eight times. So there's
Uh,
another sort of standard Gretzky in another realm statistic for all you people who have maybe forgot or didn't know how great, how dominant a player he was for such a long period of time, as
yeah.
to just have just total separation on the rest of the league for many years.
The record setter was on his horse from the first shift today, wasn't he, Bruce?
Oh yeah, yeah, he was making a beeline for the net. I noticed he led the team in shots. No, he didn't. McCain did, but he led the lead in shot attempts, and he had four takeaways in this game. He was just all over the puck, and one of those takeaways, at least, well, it led to his own goal. That was 150th point. He stole it behind the net, and he shoveled it out in front to his line mates on the fourth line, as he would be with Fogel and Ryan, and they were able to somehow bang the puck in his general direction. I think Vogel was able to nip it over there, and
Yep.
McDavid slammed it in the short side. But this is the beauty of Coach Woodcroft's 11-7 system. The way they have it designed is they just have a fourth line with a hole in the middle, and they have all these choices. You can have Draisaitl, they can have McDavid, they can have Nugent Hopkins, they can have McLeod typically. And nowadays they can have Bukestad take an extra shift there just to make sure those guys get in the game. And what Woody's been doing to get them in the game, a lot of games you'll notice with the 11 forwards, that 10 and 11 start the game. They start, it'll be Fogel and Ryan, or it'll be Costin and Ryan typically, and it'll be McDavid or Draisaitl. So those guys are hardly forgotten, extra parts that don't get off the bench like you used to have the 11 forwards and five defensemen, and the 10 and 11 guys were penalty killers, and they might sit there turned to stone over the course of a night.
Yep.
But these guys get in there right away and right from the first shift. And I mean, you're talking about fourth line players, except for these are good players, and also except for obviously Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are anything but fourth line players. So right from the get go, you got a good line out there,
Yeah.
and those guys are involved. And then frequently Woody will do the same thing in the second period and the third period, and that basically guarantees these guys are sort of in the rotation. and they're going to get their minutes, even if the lines sort of narrow down to 9 for part of a period, or up to stretch of the third period or whatever. They will have gotten their time. And today, I believe we had every single forward over. Geez, looks like a forward was 10:45 was the lowest, and next lowest was 14 minutes. I mean, they really used everybody
Well, and
in this game.
Bruce, a lot of people, and I think quite rightly, think that the 11-7 is a real advantage from a blue line standpoint, because you
Mhm.
can really pick and choose and spot in your defenseman where you want to spot him in.
Yeah.
I would submit to you that the 11-7 makes that forward group better even before the game starts, because there's a real competition for those spots, because
Hmm.
on a lot of nights you're not just slotting in with a couple other fourth line plugs.
Right.
The battle there is knowing you're going to get shifts with 20, 29, and 97.
Hmm.
And once McLeod is back, and Holloway is just on fire in the American League right now, once you
Yeah.
get to the playoffs, I mean, think of the battle between like a half dozen good players for those fourth line spots, because the incentive is I'm going to get shifts with those two guys, right? So
Yeah. Of
I
course.
I really think there's multiple advantages to it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's different ways of playing it. The extra space can be a winger, or it can be a center, it can be a 4C, or as they did last year in the LA series, it was a 2C that they left open, and they had like their second line was Kane, Hyman, and X,
Yeah.
and so it meant that McDavid, when he played his extra shifts, when he wasn't playing with Draisaitl and Nuge, he was playing with Kane and Hyman. Stop
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So it's just different permutations and combinations, and I think Woody is very, very smart at how he deploys it. Like on the back-to-back this week, he went 11-7 in the first game, and then against Anaheim, they really needed that first game. Then against Anaheim, and after all of McDavid and Draisaitl had played 23, 24 minutes, on the second night he went 12-6, and he just rotated the lines, and those guys didn't get the extra shifts because they didn't need another 22 or 24-minute game. They needed the
Yep.
Oilers to win a game where they played 18 minutes, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, watching McDavid today, and there's a few shifts that they just look like the Harlem Globetrotters out there, and San Jose just did not have an answer, and around and around and around they went.
Sweet Georgia Brown.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it. Oh, look, there's Curly in the corner dribbling away, and it was something to behold.
Try not to blow out my microphone here. We get the tune. So anyway, that was it's fun when they got that going, and clearly, I mean, there's a huge divide between Oilers and some of these teams they're playing. You can't take too much away from a game like this, because you're not going to see a team like San Jose in the playoffs. I wouldn't imagine in any game in the playoffs. But what I like is that the teams that's not, they're not slowing down. They're not saying, well, let's play down to this level because we can. They just took it to them today and decisively won, and on to the next. Speaking of which, on to the next good thing. Kurt, your second good thing.
My second good thing is the time that the organization's depth defenseman got today. Because I think today's game was probably more about game 83 than it was about game 80. You've been watching hockey for even longer than me, Bruce. I think we both know that the Stanley Cup playoffs are often a battle of attrition.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember off the top of my head a Stanley Cup winner that won it with 6D.
I can, but only one.
You're gonna
the LA Kings of 2012.
Yeah.
They had the same 6D for all 20 games. I think it took them to win it, and it jumped off the page. This never happens, but it did for them.
But rare, right? Because it's such a tough slog. Inevitably, you're going to run into injuries, or like look at last year. Like with Nurse, you run into a suspension. Like it can be any number of things, and all of a sudden you've got to get into your depth defenseman. And I think that Philip Broberg, I think, is automatically your 7.
Mhm.
And I saw him score a goal tonight, and I saw him get 14 minutes on both the left side and the right side,
Mhm.
which for my money, that's exactly what you need to see Philip Broberg getting for these last few games. Um, get him up, get him going, get some confidence in him. So when you need him, he can hit the ground running. I think it was equally important to see what you had in Jason Demers, because who's the number 8? Well, Ryan Murray is back skating again, but there's no guarantee he'll play again this year. You might say, well, it's Marcus Niemelainen. Well, he's hurt right now.
Yep,
He's not playing
sure
for
is.
Bakersfield. So what are you going to do in Game 7 of the Western Conference Final against the Colorado Avalanche? What are you going to do? Call up Phil Kemp? Like, no
Yeah.
disrespect to Phil Kemp, but there's a guy with has just never done that before. So I think it was really smart to see Jason Demers get his 10 minutes tonight. Yes, he was certainly primarily at fault in the one goal, and we'll talk about that. But you know what? He also got a shot on net. He had 3 real heavy, hard plays down low in the defensive end. It really didn't matter how he played today. It's getting him into an NHL game at NHL speed again.
Yeah.
So if something bad happens and you do need him down the road,
Mhm.
the guy doing the play-by-play that night is not going and playing his first NHL game in 2 years.
Right.
At least he's had a chance to get his feet wet. I mean, who's kidding who? Neither Philip Broberg nor Jason Demers is going to replace any of the Oilers' top 6, right? But to see them play tonight, and by the way, Deharnier, I think I saw got what was his minutes tonight? It was
16:45, and a
yeah,
lot of it with Nurse.
with Nurse as well, right? So he
He's
stepped
filling in for
into
Cece. He
for
was
Cody Cece's role, and I thought he was very good, right? So if we're thinking of game 83 and onward, to see Demers and Broberg and Desharnais get lots of ice time, I think was exactly what the doctor ordered. Almost immaterial of the outcome tonight. This was an investment in the future, and I thought it was a good investment. Were the returns mixed today? Yeah, sure. But again, I think Jay Woodcroft is playing the long game here.
yeah. Well, not very mixed. I mean, 6-1. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
mostly good returns.
yep.
Nurse himself was the only Oiler to play 20 minutes, and he played 20 minutes and 14 seconds, so hardly taxed in this game. And then the rest of the defense were, 19 for Ekholm, 19 for Kulak, 17 for Bouchard, 16 for Desharnais, 14 for Broberg, 10 for Demers. Like Demers took a minute or two away from each of the other guys as the 7th D man,
Yeah.
and just spelled them off a little bit here and there. And I mean, he's the number 4 right shot defenseman in the organization since the Tyson Barrie trade. I mean, the Oilers had 4 on the Oilers, but when Barrie got traded for Ekholm, that went down to 3. And there's really nobody with NHL experience down in the minors. So I might as well have a look at him. And under such good circumstances, he's legitimately replacing a right shot defenseman, and so you got to see what's going on.
Yep.
B, the right shot defenseman is not injured. He's not suffered some kind of bad thing that's happened. He went home so that he could attend the birth of his child. I mean,
His first child too, right?
his first
So yeah,
child. Yeah,
extra
yeah. I mean,
special.
it's like what happened with Skinner early in the year when
Yeah.
he went home from California, and Campbell got some runway to run with it net for a while, and actually turned his game around for a while. And I mean, just good news there. And the fact that Demers not only got called up sort of for legitimate reasons, but he got called up to play probably his last NHL game, his 700th NHL game, and he happened to play that game in his old haunts where he played the first 300 games of his NHL career as a San Jose Shark.
They did a nice
And
tribute for him up on the
yeah.
scoreboard,
So
and
it's just feel good all the way around. And even the one sort of scary bit where they put Ryan McLeod on injured reserve, that was only to make enough cap space to get him up here.
Yeah,
and when he goes right back
transaction.
down after this game, because presumably the baby will have arrived by the time the Oilers play in Colorado on Tuesday, when they send him back down, so happens that McLeod's 24 days that he needs to be on LTIR will have ended, and he's actually eligible to play next game. It just was they had the luxury of keeping him on the roster in case he healed faster. They didn't want to have to wait 24 days if he was ready in 16, but they knew he wouldn't play today, and so they made this move. And I thought everything, all the tumblers fell in place for just another little feel-good story at the end of the year. And good on you, Jason Demers. 7 years ago, there was analytics people in particular that would have given a lot to have Jason Demers come to the Edmonton Oilers, and so we finally got to see him here, just a day late and a dollar short. But
well, you know what?
Good on you, Jason. I mean, congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. 700 NHL games for 7th round defenseman. That's
bingo.
You don't get that very often. So
yeah, that's for sure. So where are we?
It's your good thing next.
That was the second good thing. Okay, my second good thing. I'm just going to pick one of the lower players out of the mix today, and I thought they all played pretty good, But Derek Ryan, I thought he had a very, very nice game today.
What a good choice.
And thanks. He was all over it with a non-assist, but a Cult of Hockey contribution to grade A shot on McDavid's 150th point, where he was involved in that puck battle in front where Fogle finally bunted it over to McDavid. But the reason that San Jose didn't get it out of there was that two Oilers were battling hard for that puck. And then McDavid came around the net to put it home. So that one. Then, of course, there was the shorthanded goal right at the end of the second period, which essentially put this game to bed. And Oilers they were dominating play in San Jose zone, and Nick Bjugstad got a real cheap penalty for, I'm not sure what it was. I think maybe 2 minutes for being taller than the other guy.
What a hold your nose call that was, hey? Wow.
Just brutal. And you're thinking, well, if they're going to have a power play, they're going to carry over in the third. Maybe they score, and it's 3-2. Then there's a bunch of work to do. And instead, basically right off the face-off, San Jose got the puck, but Erik Karlsson, they put pressure on him. I think it was Nugent Hopkins that pressured him. Then it was Ryan who picked off the pass and skedaddled up the ice with it. And he made a nice cross-ice pass to Nugent Hopkins on the 2-on-1, and Nuge delivered actually 3-on-1, wasn't it? And
because Nurse was the third man, right? Yeah.
Nuge delivered perfectly back, and Ryan did something that some players don't do, but some guys, especially goal scorers, do by nature. And that was after he passed the puck off, he went to the front of the net and he stopped. And he had a stick on the ice. And when Nugent Hopkins delivered the pass back, he shot it into the empty net. And sometimes you see guys that just sort of wander past the net and you go, what are you doing, man? You're not anticipating, that chance that might come back to you. Well, he did that. And that really put the game away, even as it did set the stage for my bad thing. And then in the third period, he again earned an assist on McDavid's. The Broberg goal.
Yes.
Or it was he who won the puck in just
he was
inside,
the secondary assist, right?
Just outside the blue line, I think, and he got it up to Leon, and then Leon did most of the work, and then he made the inside pass to Broberg, who did the kind of the round the horn. I think it hit the post, it hit the goal. Like, first of all, he tried to deke the goalie, and then it hit the post, and then it hit the goalie, and then he had to reach over and tap it in. But Ryan was the one who started that play. So when you look at a fourth line forward who starts the game on the extra line, he plays almost 16 minutes, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, +3, 159 on the penalty kill. Only Nuge played more in the PK than he did. And the power play was +1 on the day, and he was the one who scored that. And just 1 shot, but 2 takeaways, and the only Oiler to be over 50% on the faceoff dot at 56%. That is a nice day's work, Derek Ryan.
No
you
kidding.
were my second good thing.
Yeah, good pick. And you're talking about Ryan stopping at the net there. I know you and I've had this conversation before. I don't have any patience for people who refer to players as garbage players and all that kind of stuff. I just
Oh,
don't have any
garbage
time for that.
collectors, as in garbage collectors or
Well,
garbage
no,
players? I mean,
no
that's two
garbage.
different things to
Yeah,
me.
no garbage players. And because my
Mhm,
immediate response is no. Every player at this level is a good player, right?
mhm.
But often what separates veteran players from young players who haven't quite figured it out yet is veteran players know what spots to be in.
Yeah.
And sometimes rookie players are just so hard busting their ass, they
Mhm,
forget that the most important thing is to be in the right place. But a
yeah.
guy like Derek Ryan, who at 36 and who's been around the bend a couple of times, he knows he's not going to win a lot of foot battles. So in Derek Ryan's mind is my job is to be in the right place. And
Mhm,
that quality just immediately popped into my mind when you described that goal.
mhm.
On both ends of it, Ryan was just in the
Yes,
right spot both
sure
times,
was. Yeah.
right? Which I really respect a guy who can think a game like he did on that.
Yeah. Beauty. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Of course, I'm a Golden Bears fan dating
Mm-hmm.
back to the 70s. So I have a special rooting interest in former Golden Bears who make it to the Oilers. And it's a short but impressive list. And that guy, after 4 years, it's not like he sort of stopped in CIS for 1 year while he was, sort of recalibrating after junior hockey. He played an overage season in junior. He played 4 years in the CIS hockey with the U of Alberta Golden Bears. He played 1 year in Europe and he played 1 year in the AHL after Carolina showed interest in him. And then he's been an NHL regular for what, last 7 or 8 years?
Yeah,
He's
and
what?
all
Way
undrafted, right?
all, yeah, yeah. So all in the sort of, uh, yeah, small, small guy who doesn't quite, you know, burn his way into the draft list and typically that's what you find in uh, CIS or in general in undrafted forwards who eventually make it later. Little guys like Yanni Gord or Martin St. Louis being an extreme example of guy who uh, wound up being a success by beating the odds at the NHL level and just to make it and to have a career like Ryan has had is really beating the odds, and I really admire that player.
Yeah, just a quick thought and it just kind of popped into my head. Two of the three Oilers right shot D men today were seventh round draft picks.
Good one. Good one. And the third one was what round did first round, of course, Bouchard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking it was
One,
another.
7, and 7.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So Kurt, let's turn our attention briefly to bad things.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to dwell on this, but hey, at the Cult of Hockey, we always believe in being honest and calling it the way we see it. And that first goal by the San Jose Sharks was certainly an unfortunate thing. I got to say, as soon as it happened, I said, "Oh damn, I didn't want that to happen to Jason Demers today." I immediately felt bad. And I think anybody who's ever played a game probably felt bad because they've made the exact same play. I know I have. Um, and it was a case where the ironic thing was he was trying to make the safe play. Instead of trying to force the puck through, he was trying to reverse it. But it just kind of went off the end of his stick and bam, boom, and
Yeah.
in it went, right? And as I said to you before we started the podcast, I'd be way more concerned if he got exposed in terms of his lack of foot speed and something like that. This was a play that was just an accident. It was a bad accident. He was certainly primary at fault, and at the time it created a 1-1 tie, just enough for you to go, ooh, this feels a little uncomfortable. But I
Mm-hmm.
mostly felt uncomfortable for him, and I'm really glad that the game ended up turning out the way it turned out for him. Um, but hey, when you're looking at cold hard facts and assessing a game, it certainly wasn't a good play at a good time.
Right.
And it left him the rest of the game trying to mop up for that, which I think to his credit, I think he did.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be my choice for the bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm grading this game, and I'm going to be grading him out at a flat 5 for this game, despite that blunder, which obviously is a minus.
Yep.
I wound up, obviously not costing him a whole hell of a lot other than the shutout, I guess. But at the end of the day, uh, he played 10 minutes, least of the Oilers defense crew, and yet he led the crew in both hits and blocked shots with three of
Three each,
each.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and a couple real nice hits. They made one hit just outside, I think, of the San Jose blue line. Looked like a guy was breaking out, and bam, he got hit before he went anywhere. And
Yeah. He put
this
at
was
least
early
two
in the
guys
game,
on
and
their
I'm going, "Who
pants,
the
right?
hell was
So,
that?" Because I just
yeah.
didn't flat out recognize the type of play. And it turned out that's the new guy. Yeah, okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense because that's just not a type of play that our guys generally do. So anyway, and I'm not going to flunk him on his last career game because come on, I'm just
Yeah.
not going to do that.
Agree. I agree
Not
100%
in a
with your
six to
five.
one win. I mean, how that'd be harsh.
Yeah, that's right. Agreed. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, I would have given him a 5 too. I agree
Mhm.
completely with that grade. So
Thank you. All right, and now, yeah. So my
bad
bad
thing for
thing,
Bruce.
yeah,
Yeah.
my bad thing was after they scored that shorthanded goal at the end of the second, they took their foot off the gas in the first 5 minutes of the third period, and I thought that was by far the worst 5 minutes that Edmonton played in this game. There's a couple of little sequences in the first period, but first 5 minutes just seemed to be played in reverse, and it was all in Edmonton's zone. Or when they did finally get the puck, they would make a weak dump out to center, and it would be coming right back in at them. They wouldn't uh, get the puck deep. They wouldn't get over the blue line. They spent a lot of time defending, and yet they only gave up in the third period 6 shots altogether and got 15 of their own and 2 goals. And once they sort of got through that 5 minutes, they were fine. And in fact, they were in the ascendant. And once San Jose couldn't break through in that early surge in the third, they had nothing left after that, and it was all Oilers down the stretch. So this is sort of uh, a very very minor thing to be moaning and groaning about, but it was just a few minutes where they took their foot off the gas, and so to me they played a 55-minute game today, and
Hmm.
you want to be in the habit of playing a 60-minute game in the playoffs. That said, I'm just going to have a quick look at the event summary for the start of the third period. San Jose shot attempts. First one was Hurdle, blocked by Desharnais. Second one was Stern, blocked by Kulak. Third one was LeBanc, blocked by Kulak. They got one shot on net through by Sturm. He picked up the rebound of that one that Kulak blocked, and he got a decent shot on net. Zetterlund got one shot on net, and then Carlson's shot was blocked by Fogel. And then Bordelot's shot was blocked by Desharnais. And all of a sudden, we're 5 minutes into the third period, and they've only got 2 shots that actually went through. Even though Edmonton was on the defensive, their defensemen were blocking the shooting lanes and taking away the shots. So this is a mild criticism indeed, with some good in it. That they bent but didn't break. I think that's the takeaway from all that information.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching them on a couple of sequences in their own zone, and the difference over the last couple of seasons to now is the size and reach of the
Oh,
guys on their blue line.
they're
Like,
huge.
yeah, like there are fewer feet and inches available in the Oilers zone than there has been in recent memory.
Hmm.
Um, and you know what? It's not all inches and feet, but it's a lot of it, right?
Hmm.
It just enables you to take up a little bit more of this lane and a little bit more of that lane, and that adds up over a while. And I think the one sequence, it was Desharnais and Nurse out there. Like
Yeah,
both those guys, they've got they've got the wingspans of eagles, for God's
almost
sakes.
13 feet between the two of them.
Ah, like there was no clear lane open, right? And it's a nice position to be in.
Yeah, well, they've got a big team now,
You do.
and they've added big players. All the guys they added this year are big players, from Costin to Ekholm to Desharnais to Bugstad. They're all like 210, 215 pounds. They're all 6'3" and taller, and they're all regulars. So, and uh, they're going to be out there, on an ongoing basis. There's always one or two large men on the ice for Edmonton Oilers, and they're a tougher team than they were, and they're winning more battles than they used to win. And
100%. Yeah.
It's an upgrade for sure. So, okay, finally we got our numbers. Kurt, you have a few numbers today, but pick the best one or ones.
I'll pick one. Whether it's the best one or not, I'm not too sure. But you'll remember early on in the year, lots of people, some nights me included, would whine that the Oilers were constantly having to play from behind. They were starting slow and playing from behind. And sure, the Oilers have the horses that they're never really out of most games, but still, that's not a winning recipe. Well, the Oilers, all of a sudden, don't look now, have not trailed in 358 minutes of play.
That sounds good.
Right? Talk about turning the tables. And, in games like this, and what it does is it effectively forces the other team to change their game, if only subtly. It's the other night when they took on Anaheim, and I thought Anaheim, to their credit, played a pretty good hockey game, certainly early. But as soon as the Oilers scored, well, now you can't just stay in your defensive shell. You've got to punch back somehow. And I think those 1-0 leads are really underrated because it's suddenly it's okay, your turn now.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden that other club probably can't play the game that they wanted to play. And there's lots of reasons why these guys are on such a good run since Christmas. But I think increasingly getting out in front and playing with the lead is a big factor in all that.
Yeah, well, they're 12-0-1 now in their last 13. And since they unfortunately lost in the overtime, that game against Vegas, which could wind up being the difference. I mean, if they won that game in overtime, they're currently tied for first place with the tiebreaker. So it's pretty big.
Yep.
But since they went on the road trip where they beat Arizona 5-4, and then they beat Vegas 7-4. And in both games, they gave up 2 goals in the first period. And in both games, they answered each goal within a minute. Arizona went 1-0, bam, 1-1. 2-1 Arizona, bam, 2-2. And in the game in Vegas scored early in the first period, bam, 1-1. And then the Oilers actually got ahead 2-1. Vegas tied it, and bam, within a minute was 3-2 for Edmonton again. And then they never trailed again for the whole rest of that game. And they've been running from in front, and they're gotten to the point now that in the last 5 games, they've only given up 3 goals. 3 goals in 5 games.
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, they had 4 games all year out of the first 75. This was my number last game, where they gave up 1 or 0 goals. Actually, it was always 1. And then the last 5 games, 5 in a row. So the majority of their 1 or 0 goal against games have come in the last 5 games. It's just like a different team, and they've got a different outlook in terms of how they're locking down neutral zone, how they're how they're playing safe and smart with the lead. And it's never perfect. It's hockey.
Yep.
But they're going to have a lot of success playing that the way they're playing, and they're having a lot of success. I mean, 12-0-1 is off the charts.
It is.
So now my number, I'm just going to pick starting. I don't know if they started, to be honest. I can't remember. It was hours ago now. But a quintet of players who spent a lot of time together. Just look at their simple boxcar stats in this game. Evan Bouchard, 0 goals, 2 assists, 2 points, +4. With partner Matthias Ekholm, 0 goals, 1 assist, 1 point, +6. And then with the forward line of Zach Hyman, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, +2. He's the laggard.
Yep.
And also up front, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's just run right through the tape of 100 points today, but 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, +4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a nice day's work.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Connor McDavid, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, +4. So the 5 guys among them are +20. Of course, that's +4 for all 5 guys on 4 different goals. That's a general average. But also, what is that? 4 goals and 7 assists, and without any kind of problems at the defensive end of the sheet. That's just dominance by that group of players. And I mean, those 5 pretty darn good hockey players, Kurt. You guys, San Jose just can't match that right now, and they just
Yep.
owned the sheet when they were on it.
Yep. And, you could take those 5 guys off the ice and put your next best 5 on, and I still think the Oilers have the better of the 2 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, the rest of the team outscored them 2-1, so there you go.
Yep.
But today it was really that big 5 that had terrific games, and they're all going to get very fine grades.
They were dominant with several shifts in particular. San Jose had no answer.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Any last thoughts? Any? Maybe we'll do some kind of podcast before the playoffs start. But I'll just give you the floor for a minute to how you see this team heading into the postseason.
I think the Oilers' bottom 6 and bottom pairings are considerably better than last year.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, if everything else is equal in a series, I think the Oilers will win because they simply have the better players.
Right.
They've had the better players other years, but everything else wasn't equal. Other teams had superior depth to the Oilers.
Right. The Oilers had the better top players, but they didn't have top to bottom.
Yeah. Whereas I think it's flipped this year, and who knows? The playoffs are a big roll of the dice, and all sorts of things can happen. But I like their chances, especially considering the major heater that they're on right now.
Yeah. Well, they certainly seem to have got their team game together, and they've got it figured out, and they're winning in different ways. From 4 in the season, 5-4 was kind of your standard win.
Yep.
And it was, and they won a lot of games of that nature, 4-3, 5-4, 6-4, 6-5. But it was, it's now come under the realm of they're more in control. So
you're seeing more zeros and ones.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest change is that the Oilers now have a top 4 that's clearly, obviously identifiable as a top 4, and then a bottom 2 or bottom 3, depending on the deployment of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between that and between having a top pair that faced all the toughs and did most of the penalty killing, and then let's shelter the other guys as much as we can, it's just so much better. I mean, you could see Nurse is so much more relaxed out there. You can see, I think Cece's play has come around. Not great, but I think he's been playing better, and Ekholm's just had this influence just up and down the lineup and across, certainly to Bouchard as well, where every player on the team kind of slots differently.
Yep.
And even Nurse, where you look at the ice time and the competition, and you say, well, he's number 1, he was before, and he's still number 1, but he's still he slots now into a top 4 instead of into the top 2, and you better get her done, Darnell.
There's nobody behind you.
Yeah, well, not nobody, but you got third pairing kids behind you, and now you got another very top-notch left defenseman who's going to come out in the ice when you go off.
Yep.
And it just makes a huge difference. So
yeah, and Brett Kulak is your third pairing left-handed D. I'm comfortable with that.
I don't know. He was a good lefty last year, and this year they tried him in the top 4, and he had his moments. I thought he kind of broke even, to tell the truth, but I think he's better suited as third pairing, so he slots into a little better spot. He's a 4 or 5, and if he's playing 5, that means he should be in his comfort zone.
Agreed.
If he's playing 4, you're kind of pushing the limits. So right now he's clearly 5, or he's clearly on the third pairing, and it's solid. So, okay, well, let's leave it there, shall we, Kurt? And As always, a pleasure to chat with you, and look forward to doing a little more of it during the playoffs. At least we'll have some kind of pre-playoff pod, I would hope, with a three-headed monster, and look forward to that. But for today, I'll say thank you very much for pinch hitting for David.
It was my pleasure. It's always great to talk to you, my friend, and go Oilers.
Yeah. And thank you as well to the listeners. Thanks for listening. And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.